Namaskaram. A warm welcome to the Swayam Mook Telugu language learning series. I am Dupukuntla Ramesh Bhushan, presenter for this lesson. Today's module on reflexive and reciprocal verbs. In daily conversation, we often need to specify that an action is being done for one's own benefit, by one's own volition, or mutually between people. In Telugu, we achieve this through reflexive forms. Think of it as a way to fold the action back onto the person doing it, which primarily revolves around the auxiliary verb konu or ko. This auxiliary modifies the direction of the action, indicating that the result of the verb returns to the subject. The core of this lesson is the auxiliary verb konu. Before we dive into the how to, we must understand the three pillars of this system. 1. Reflexive form, the physical modification of the verb root into a reflexive base. Second one, reflexive construction, used for self-benefit or when the subject is also the object. This is how we use the reflexive form alongside subjects and pronouns to show that an action is directed back at the doer or performed for their benefit. It encompasses the logic of why we use the form, whether for self-benefit or self-action. Reciprocal construction, used for mutual actions between participants. In Telugu, we often use the same reflexive verb form but within a plural context. When two people perform the same action toward each other, like talking to one another or fighting with each other, the construction becomes reciprocal. It often employs the specific pronoun okarini okaru to clear any ambiguity. Grammatical explanation and applications. Formation of the stem. The reflexive is formed by adding the auxiliary verb konu, means to buy, to the basic stem of a verb. This addition transforms a simple verb into a compound stem. The morphological rule. 1. Vowel ending. If the basic stem ends in a vowel, konu is added directly. Second one, consonant ending. If the stem ends in a consonant, the vowel u must be inserted as a bridge before adding kun. The formation of a reflexive verb follows a specific two-step morphological process. Step 1, the past participle. First, take the base verb and convert it into its past participle form. Vandu becomes vandi, means to cook. In step 2, adding the auxiliary. Add the auxiliary konu. When this is attached, the participle's final e shifts to u to act as a linking vowel. If the base ends in a consonant, u is inserted automatically. The structure is base plus e becomes base plus u plus konu becomes reflexive stem. Simple stems become compound stems. Chase become chesukonu. Chase means to do or make. Chesukonu means to do, make for oneself. Same way, chaduvu becomes chadukonu, to read to oneself, to study. Konu becomes konukonu, to buy for oneself. Konu, to buy. The reflexive is konu, becomes konu, that is, konu to buy becomes konukonu, to buy for oneself. Now that we have mastered the basic formation of reflexive stems using the auxiliary kon, it is important to understand that this voice modifier does more than just show self-benefit. It is a versatile tool that can indicate mutual actions between people, transform transitive verbs into intransitive ones, and even create unique idiomatic expression. Reciprocal action. The reflexive auxiliary can denote actions performed by two or more people upon each other. When used this way, the subject must be a plural animate noun. Example, కొట్టుకొను, to beat each other, తగులాడుకొను, to fight with each other, పొడుచుకొను, to stab each other. Example, వాళ్ళు మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నారు. They are talking among themselves. It is a reciprocal use. Interaction with causative stems. The reflexive auxiliary kon is flexible enough to be added to causative stems ending in inch. This creates a meaning of causing something to be done for one's own benefit. However, note the hierarchy. You can add a reflexive to a causative, but you cannot add a causative suffix to a reflexive stem. Example, cut, to build, కట్టించు, to cause to be built, కట్టించుకొను, to cause to be built for oneself. Intransitive transformation. In certain cases, adding kon turns a transitive verb into an intransitive one. Example, unto becomes antukonu, to stick to. Next, other variety, idiomatic and frozen stems. When added to intransitive stems, the result often takes on an idiomatic meaning. In some instances, the original base verb is no longer used in modern Telugu without the reflexive auxiliary. The basic verb becomes reflexive stem, it will give idiomatic meaning. Padukonu, to lie down, urukonu, to keep silent, but uru does not occur here. Another variants, formal variations and irregularities. Reduced forms. In words like kurchonu, to be seated, and nulchonu, nunchonu, to stand, the auxiliary is represented as one or un. These are reduced forms of the original reflexive construction. Double consonants. After specific roots like kan, to see, and kon, to buy, the auxiliary becomes konu. Example, kanukkonu, to find out or discover, konukkonu, to buy for oneself. We have seen that reflexive verbs are far more than a simple grammatical rule. They are a bridge between the action and the doer's intent. Whether you are describing a door opening by itself or two people having a conversation, the reflexive stem provides the necessary clarity. Having explored the various functions shades of reflexive verbs from self-benefit to mutual interaction, we must now look at how these verbs behave when we want to express an action in its general form or give a command. The infinitive rule, sandhi. When forming the infinitive of a reflexive verb, the suffix an is added. However, the auxiliary kon changes to ko before this suffix. The structural formula, kon plus an becomes ko, ko plus an becomes ko. Rule is the short vowel a is dropped when it follows the long root vowel o. The imperative rule means commands. This same transformation from kon to ko applies when adding imperative suffixes for giving orders or making requests. U for singular or informal. andi for plural and formal. Cheppukon plus u becomes cheppuko, to tell for yourself or complain. Cheppukonu plus andi, cheppukondi. Notice the pattern. Whenever we move away from the conjugated past or present tenses into the infinitive or imperative, the short O in kon lengthens to a long O in ko. This is one of the most common sounds you will hear in spoken Telugu. We have reached a very practical stage of our lesson. In formal Telugu, we use complete grammatical forms, but language is fluid. When we speak quickly or combine actions, reflexive verbs undergo a fascinating reduction. Now we will look at how the past participle koni transforms into the short and crisp ku in everyday conversation. This is the secret to sounding less like a textbook and more like a native speaker. Participles and reductions, standard formation. The past participle of a reflexive stem is formed by adding the suffix e to the reflexive auxiliary. Example, vandukonu plus e, vandukoni. Another example, colloquial reduction, the ku rule. When the reflexive past participle is immediately followed by another verb, the three-syllable koni is very frequently reduced to a single syllable ku. Tisukoni velli becomes tiskuvellu, becomes tiskellu. To take and go, to take away. The evolution of take and go, formal examples, తీసుకొని వెళ్ళాడు, reduced one, తీసుకు వెళ్ళాడు, colloquial, తీసుకెళ్ళాడు. Extended stems and idiomatic expressions. Some of these combinations are used so frequently that they have become single idiomatic units in the language. తీసుకువచ్చు, to bring, మోసుకువెళ్ళు, to carry away. Notice how the language moves toward efficiency. The transition from తీసుకొని to తీసుకు allows the speaker to link two actions, taking and moving into a single fluid motion. Mastering these reductions is the final step in your journey to understanding Telugu reflexive verbs. Now that we understand the why and how, let's look at the vocabulary that makes these sentences come alive and examine the model sentences to see these reflexives in action. Model sentences and analysis. To truly understand the versatility of the reflexive stem, let's look at how these variations appear in real sentences. Pay close attention to how the meaning shifts from a simple act to a self-oriented or mutual act. Notice how the context determines whether the verb is reflexive, reciprocal or idiomatic. Example, నీళ్లు పోసుకున్నాడు. Structure is నీళ్లు plus పోసి plus కొన్నాడు. He took a bath. The action is physically directed at the doer. Logic is he did not just pour water, he poured it onto himself. It is a reflexive construction. Another example, ఆయన వంట చేసుకుంటాడు. He will cook for himself. It is a self-benefit example. The action is performed for the agent's own advantage or profit. వాళ్ళు మాట్లాడుకుంటున్నారు. They are talking among themselves. It is a reciprocal use. మీ తాతతో చెప్పుకో. Tell it to your grandfather. Implying, go ahead and complain for your own sake. I don't care. తెలుగు నేర్చుకుంటున్నాను. I am learning Telugu. Learning is inherently a reflexive process of gaining for oneself. It is an internal gain. Another example, ఆమె పండ్లు అమ్ముకొన్నది. She sold fruit for her own benefit or profit. The action is performed for the agent's own advantage or profit. Logic is, if she sold fruit for her employer, she might say అమ్మింది. By using అమ్ముకొన్నది, it implies she sold them for her own livelihood or profit. పిల్లలు ఆడుకుంటున్నారు. స్ట్రక్చర్ పిల్లలు ప్లస్ ఆడు ప్లస్ కొంటున్నారు. The children are playing together or among themselves. When the subject is plural, the reflexive auxiliary often indicates that the participants are acting upon each other. It is reciprocal or mutual action. Another example, మీరు పడుకొన్నారా? Are you lying down? Or have you gone to sleep? It is a idiomatic expression. పెట్టె తీసుకువచ్చాడు. He brought the box. Here, తీసుకు is a reflexive participle form of take. వర్షం వస్తుంది అనుకోండి, మీరు ఏం చేస్తారు? Suppose the rain comes, what will you do? It is a idiomatic expression. Here, the verb అనుకో, to think or suppose, is the reflexive form of anu, to say. As you can see, reflexive stems are not just a grammatical luxury, they are essential for expressing the nuances of who benefits from an action. Without the konu auxiliary, many of these sentences would sound incomplete or change meaning entirely. Now that we have completed our deep dive into the morphology, syntax, and forms of reflexive and reciprocal verbs, as we conclude, let us review our summary of the lesson. Let's recap the main takeaways from what we have learned today's session. We create reflexive bases by adding kon or ko to the past participle. Remember the vowel shift from e to u. The reflexive is used for self-benefit actions on the body or involuntary acts. The same reflexive verb form used with a plural subject describes reciprocal. In colloquial speech, తీసుకొని often reduces to తీసుకు. Note that many common verbs like అనుకో or పడుకో are permanently in the reflexive form. As you practice, remember that language is not just about words, it is about the direction of intent. By mastering the reflexive and reciprocal constructions, you are mastering how to describe the relationship between the doer, the action, and the world around them. Practice by converting your daily actions into reflexive forms. Until our next module, ధన్యవాదాలు.